Right here. So this is linear programming. It's basically part 2, right? So last week we had ended up doing this question, and we were pretending that we had opened our own business and that we were going to sell hamburgers and ice cream, and we were going to sell it in this little cart over here. Now, the aim of any business is to make as much profit as possible, right? And that's the aim of any business, right? You want to make profit, right? Now, as I mentioned last week, right, in any business, there's limitations. If we open a hamburger and ice cream shop, of course, we could fantasize about selling 1 million burgers every day, 2 million ice cream every day. I mean, but that's just a fantasy, right? In real life, you're going to have limitations, things that make those fantasies basically not possible. And we had investigated some last week, right? But here's the thing. Once you know the limitations in a business, how do you figure out how much burgers to pack every day? How do you figure out how much ice cream to have in storage every day? Tell me something. Let's say if we package 50 burgers a day, does that mean we automatically have to try to sell 50 ice creams a day? Well, what do you all think? Do you think selling the same amount of each item will always bring you maximum profit in a business? What does your common sense say about that situation? The answer is no, right? Because burgers will have a different profit margin. And of course, ice creams will have a different profit margin. So for all you know, to get maximum profit, maybe instead of selling 50 burgers, you should try to sell 70. And for the ice cream, it could be what? 30. Who knows, right? But there's a mathematical way to figure out how much of each item to try to sell every day in order to maximize your profit, right? So this is the magic of maths here. So one of the limitations we had met last week was this. The examiner had told you, let X be hamburgers, and you must not sell more than 60. So last week we realized that this really meant X had to be less than or equal to what? 60, because you're not allowed to sell more than 60 for whatever reasons. For all you know, the gas tank that you use to make these burgers can only what? Fry 60 up to 60 burgers. Or your refrigerator is not large enough to store more than 60 patties and bread. You can only use the imagination there. Also, the examiner came and told you in the exam itself that let the letter Y represent the amount of ice creams you sell. And he said, you must sell at least 10 ice creams. All right, so whatever the reasons for that, we realize that means Y must be more than or equal to 10. Because if you want at least 10 of something, if I want at least $10 from you, doesn't that mean I want at least $10 or $11 or $12? I want $10 or more. Then we realized the cart has only space for 80 food items. So that means when you add up all the hamburgers, which is X, and all the ice creams, it cannot exceed 80 because that's the capacity of your food cart. So mathematically, how would you write that? Well, X, which is the amount of hamburgers, plus the amount of ice creams, which is the letter Y, when you add up both of them, it has to be less than or equal to 80. It cannot exceed 80. So what we're going to do now that we have the 3 equations, we have to draw it on graph paper, right? So for those who didn't get a chance to take down anything last week, take down everything on the screen, and then we're going to what? Draw everything on graph paper. So let me know when you're ready to move on. Right, so keep in mind, it's going to be very important. The profit on each burger is $3, and the profit on each ice cream is going to be $4. That's going to be very important coming down to the end of the question today. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to draw all three graphs, right? Now, and for those who drew it last week, obviously I'm not going to make you draw it back, right? You can just, pull out the graphs from last week and just follow as we go along here. So the first equation that we had to draw was x is less than or equal to what? 60. Now, when you're drawing this graph here, all you have to do is pretend the inequality sign is what? An equal sign. And how does the graph x equal to 60 look? Well, that's just a vertical line going through what? 60 on the x-axis, and I have it here. I know it's kind of hard to see, but we'll write it back. The purple line here is x is equal to 60. It's just a vertical line going through what on the x-axis? 60. And remember, the letter x is going to represent the amount of what? Hamburgers. The other equation we had to draw was y is more than or equal to what? 10. Now, y is equal to 10 is a horizontal line going through 10 on the y-axis. So I'm going to put a little arrow here. This horizontal line here is y is equal to 10. And the other graph we had to draw last week, let me get a different color, I'll get yellow or something, was x plus y is less than or equal to 80. That was the third graph we had to draw last week. And that graph ended up being the green line. So x plus y is less than or equal, sorry, not less than or equal to 60. X plus y is equal to 80. So once we got the three graphs, we had to figure out where to shade. Do you all remember where you all ended up shading? I can't even remember if we reached this far last week, right? But where do you think we will end up shading? Area A, B, C, D, E, or F? Right. See if you all can reason it out based on the inequalities. But trying to figure out where to shade, to me, is the hardest thing for students. So let's look at the first graph here. X is less than or equal to 60. So we have the graph here, that's the vertical line. That is x is equal to 60. Whenever you see less than, do we imagine the shading to the left, or do we imagine the shading to the right? Whenever you see a vertical line and you see less than, it will be to the left. Okay, so let me take out this arrow here. We have to shade to the left of the line. Now remember, in the exam, since you have so much graphs on the graph paper, you have to imagine that shading, right? But I'm just going to write it, draw it in here. So to the left of that line, we're going to shade out everything to the left of that vertical purple line. When I'm shading, I don't care about the rest of the lines, you know. The rest of the lines doesn't even exist to me. Right? So you notice I shade out everything to the left of the line. All right. For the horizontal line, that's y is more than or equal to 10. Whenever you hear the phrase more than, do you think about above or do you think about below? Which one do you think about when you hear the phrase more than? It's going to be above. All right, so I'm going to use, last week we had said we will use a different type of line. So for this horizontal line, I'm going to shade above it in nice little squiggly lines, right? I know it's going to get a little bit complex, but the aim of the question is to figure out which region has all three types of lines, right? So everything above that vertical line, and just putting blue squiggly lines, or imagining blue squiggly lines. All right, for the last one, x plus y is less than or equal to 80. That's this slanted line here. Do we shade above or do we shade below? We shade below, correct. So we said we will use, like, you know, some crazy symbol like this circle. So everything below this line here, we're going to put little circles, right? Or imagine little circles in the exam, right? Whole set of different circles. And now you ask yourself, hey, which region has all three types of shapes? It's still what? Region C. Let me just box it off for you guys here. Doesn't this region here, region C, doesn't it have pink lines, blue squiggly lines, and green circles? No other region has all three symbols in it. So anybody remembers what they call this region? The region that has everything that you want. It starts with the letter C, ironically. The name of the area is C, and the official name for that region also starts with C. Right, it's called you guys will remember, common region. And the common region is the region that you're going to use to find your maximum profit. So once you identify that region, you're on your way to just about figuring out how much burgers you need to sell and how much ice cream you need to try to sell every day in order to make maximum profit. Let me neaten this up for you all a little bit, right? So let me just clear everything there, right? Right. So this is the region here that is region C. I'm making it look a little bit neater here. Right. So it has a lot of imagination to do, right? Region, well, let me put the official words, common region. All right, now here's what I need for you to do. Once you identify the common region, you need to go to each vertex. In case you don't know what a vertex is a corner. How much corners does this common region have? How much corners does it have? It has 4, right? I'm seeing 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you get to name it anything. I just call it in the top one A. Doesn't A have an X and a Y coordinate? Isn't the coordinates of A 0, 80? 0 on the X and 80 on the Y. I needed to do the same thing for all the corners. Go to each corner or vertex. The vertex is the official name for it, right? And get the coordinates of each vertex. Get the X and the Y. So for B, get the X and the Y. For C, get the X and the Y. And the same thing for D. And then I will show you what to do with those vertices, those corners. Let's see. For point B, I am getting 60, 20. Look at it here, 60 on the X and 20 on the Y. For C is 60, 10. And for D, it looks like 0, 10. Right? So I think the majority of people sent those. Now, keep in mind, the letter Y, I'm going to keep saying it, represents the amount of ice creams, and the letter X represents the amount of hamburgers. Do you all remember the profit equation? The profit, sorry. Well, what's the profit on one hamburger again? The profit on one hamburger was $3, right? And the profit on one ice cream was $4. So let's make an equation for the profit. Tell me something. If X represents the amount of hamburgers you sell, and the profit on each hamburger is $3. So if I sell 10 burgers and the profit on each one is $3, the profit will be what? 10 by 3, which is 30. And isn't the letter Y used to represent the ice cream? And what's the profit on one ice cream? $4. So like if I sell 5 ice creams, so I just have to replace the letter Y with 5. 5 by 4 is 20. Isn't the total profit from our little business the profit of the burgers plus the profit of the ice cream? So shouldn't I put an addition sign in between? And that is our equation to calculate what the total profit of our little business. So here's what you have to do now. I'll do the first one for you. You visit coordinate A, but vertex A. And remember, according to vertex A, X is how much? 0, and Y is how much? 80. So all I do is go to my little profit equation. I'm using P for profit. I replace the X with what? 0. And then I replace the Y with 80. And I calculate the profit for point A. 3 by 0 is 0. 4 by 80 is 320. When I work this out, 320 plus 0 is $320. Do you all think you all can do the same thing for all the points? For B, calculate the profit at point B. Calculate the profit at point C, and so forth. Okay? And let's see which one gives you the largest profit. Do it for B, C, and D. I'll just load it up here so when it's time for me to do it. Right, you have to show the examiner the calculation for each pointer. See some answers. For point B, I am getting 260, right? For this one, I'm getting 260. For point C, I am getting 220. And for point D, I'm just getting $40. Which one gave you the largest profit? A, B, C, or D? It's definitely A. So let's analyze what is A saying. According to point A, that's this guy here, X needs to be 0 and Y needs to be 80. Remember, X represents the amount of hamburgers, so let's put HAM, and Y, which is 80, is the amount of ice creams. So for our business to achieve maximum profitability, right? Well, maximum profit. I don't think profitability is a real word, right? We need to scrap the idea of selling hamburgers. We need to sell 0 hamburgers, which means we should eliminate hamburgers from our business and only focus on selling ice creams, and specifically aim at trying our best to sell 80 ice creams per day. And once we stick to that plan, most likely our business will reach its maximum profits. Right? Do you all think this could be useful in real life? All right, so we have another business here. So instead of selling hamburgers and ice creams, we open a pet store and we're selling 2 types of pets, dogs and rats. For whatever reason, I don't know why anybody would ever need to buy a rat as a pet, but All right, so let's look. I want you all to read this question, and I want you all to come up with 3 equations for me. It has 3 limits or constraints on your business. Good luck, and I await the equations on the chart. First one is pretty straightforward. You can't, remember X represents the dogs, so you cannot sell more than 40 dogs a day, right? So if you cannot sell more than 40 dogs, then you have to try to at least sell 40 or less. So X has to be less than or equal to 40, right? So that will be given to you by the examiner, the limitation, right? He will write it out just like this, and you will have to take this and turn it into an inequality. The second one, I know some of you all might get it wrong, right? Remember, for some reason, you want to try to sell twice the amount of rats than dogs. So you want to definitely sell more rats than dogs in this case. Tell me how much of you all had this? Letter Y represents the amount of rats. Now, the word at least, remember last week I took my time to explain what at least means. When you hear the term at least, that actually means more than, and I'll give you a simple scenario. If I want at least $10, that means I want $10 or more. I want $11, $12. Think about it. If you went up to someone and you asked for at least $10 and they gave you 9, you'll be like, but I asked for at least, you want 10 or more, right? So this really means Y must be more than equal to 2X. The 2 represents the word twice, and X represents the dogs. How much of you all got that? Y, which is the rats, must at least be more than twice the amount of dogs. Right, so we write down my equation so I don't forget it also. And then the third one is pretty easy. It's just a modification of the last question. If the store only has space for 90 pets, that means when you add up the amount of dogs, which is X, and the amount of rats, which is Y, when you add up all the animals, right? Right? It has to be less than or equal to 90. So those are your 3 equations. Remember, the letter X represents the amount of dogs, right? At the moment, do we know how much dogs we plan to sell? Well, what do you guys think? If X represents the amount of dogs we sell, do we know at this point in time how much dogs we plan to sell? The answer is no, we don't know. Look at the last question. What with the hamburgers? Remember, we had to try to sell at least, I think it was 60 hamburgers. So in the last question, we had X is less than or equal to 60. We didn't know how much hamburgers we wanted to sell. Remember, at the end of the question, we realized the best value for X was 0. But we only knew that at the end of the question. So the point I'm trying to make, right? X and Y are variables, meaning that we don't know their values as yet. The aim of the question is to try to figure out the values. All we know for sure is that X has to be less than 40 or Y has to be more than 2X. But the exact values are unknown at this point in time, right? So you can't replace X with a particular value right now. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Right, so we're getting ready to move on there, right? There's just only 3 things we had to take down. Let's begin to draw our equations, right? All right. So the first equation that we're going to, well, here what, you guys take a shot and draw all 3 graphs on the same graph paper. Yeah, you have to get some practice with this one. So you have 3 graphs to draw. Good luck. I'm going to give you 10 minutes with this one. Right? Obviously, you'll see all my working and thing after, but you really need to take a shot at it. Right? And you can load up your graph paper just like mine. The x-axis is going up to 90. X is representing dog, so I have a little dog there on the x-axis. And the y-axis is representing rats, and it's going up to about 80. For the second equation, remember, when you're drawing any graph in the world, you just need 2 points. Right now, this has a y and an x, and you always have to make y the subject, right? You always try to make y the subject, and y is already the subject. So you just need to choose 3 values for x. Now look at your x-axis, it's going from 0 to 90. So for x, you can probably just choose what? 0 to t and I don't know, 40. That should work. I'll do the first one for you. For the first one, you just replace x with 0. 2 by 0 is what? 0. So y is 0 when x is 0. When x is 30, when you're pretending x is 30, 2 by 30 is what? 60. You all can move on and do the next one now. Replace x with 40, and you get your 3 points, and you plot it. For the first graph, it's just what? A vertical line going through 40. So this graph here, the blue one, is x is equal to 40. For the other one, if you plot these points, you'll get 0, 0. That's the first point. You're supposed to get 80 here, by the way. The next point is 30, 60. And the next one is 40, 80. Anybody got a real slanted line going up like this for the next one? This one here is, the black line here is y is equal to 2x. How much people have that? So it's just to do the third graph now. For the third graph, the x plus y is less than or equal to 90. Unfortunately, we have to make who the subject first? Y. So we have to throw across Mr. Positive x to get what? Minus x. So we just need to choose 3 values for x. Remember, everybody's going to choose 3 different values, right? But how about 20? 20. Let's see what we get here. 20, 40, and I think we could actually use 90. 90 will work. 20, 40, and 90. So all you have to do is go here and replace x with 20. Then replace it with 40. And then 90. And calculate the corresponding y values. Right. Right. Let's see what for 20, when we replace the x with 20, 90 minus 20 is 70. When you replace it with 40, I'm getting 50. And when you replace it with 90, I'm getting 0. So let's see how your graph might look with this. The first point is 20, 70. So that's somewhere around here. Next one is 40, 50, somewhere around here. And then 90, 0 is down here. So your graph looking something like this. The third graph. Anybody could agree with that? Let's see. X plus Y is less than or equal to 9. Tell me how we're looking on your end here, guys, right? Now, I really hope the majority of us are physically trying it and not just watching me doing it. Watching me doing it is a completely different thing to actually doing it yourself, right? All right. So I'm just going to erase these little things here, right? So to make it easier now, when I start to draw these squiggly lines, right? So I'm just going to take off these things for the time being. Right, so we're going to use some blue here. All right, so for the blue line, well, which is X is less than or equal to 40. We know when it's less than, we're going to shade to the left of the line. Let me get a different color, let me get green. Right, so we shade in to the left of that line. I'm going to use green for that. All right. I know it's going to be real boring to watch. Oy. All right. For the next line, the black line, I'm going to use some orange. For the black line, it was Y is more than or equal to what? 20. Sorry, Y is more than or equal to 2x. That's for the black line. Now, when you hear more than, that's going to be what? Above. Okay? So we're going to shade above that black line. I'm going to use these orange squiggly lines there. Let's see who's correct. All right, so for the last one now, it's X plus Y is less than or equal to 90. So for this red line, right, we have to go what? Below that. Okay, so run out of colors here. I could probably use a gray. Oh. I'll probably use lightning lines this time. Actually, it's kind of hard to do. Which region has all three now? Which region has all three? It's this region here. This was region what? Anybody remember? This was region E. E was the correct one. Right? So for the people who said A, you all had it correct. Eh? That region has all three colors. Now, obviously, I have to neaten this up for you guys, right? Now, but all these lines we just drew is really supposed to be in our head, right? It's supposed to imagine all of that. Or you could probably do it and scrap in the exam to reason it out. Let's neaten this up. Right, now this graph looks a little bit different. Everyone agrees that when you did it on graph paper, it went up to 90. That is slanted line here, slice the y-axis at 90. You all could confirm that on your ends? Make sure the slanted line cut at 90 on your graph. You couldn't see it in the last diagram because my last one only went up to 90. This new graph, my y-axis made it up to 100. Great. And we just agreed that the common region was this guy here. Let me put it in red for you guys. This here is the common region. Now, the common region this time happens to be what? A triangle. A triangle only has three vertices, A, B, and C. So get the coordinates of A, get the coordinates of B, and get the coordinates of what? C. Coordinate A looking like 0, 90, B looking like 60, and well, C is 0. Now C is 0, 0. Somebody said 0, 60. Now, but this one is 0, 0. Look at it at the origin itself. Right. So anybody remembers, well, I have it written on top here. You think you could come up with the profit equation? Remember, the profit for each dog is $35 and the profit for each rat is $25. The letter X represents the amount of dogs we sold and Y represents the amount of rats. Come up with the profit equation. No? Well, what's the profit equation? P for profit. Right, Cyan, correct. Anybody else? How about this? It's 35x plus 25y. It's as simple as that, because for every rat you sell, you're making 25 profit. And for every dog you sell, which is X, you're making 35 profit. So you add up both profits to get the total profit. Calculate the profit for point A, B, and C, and tell me which one gives you the maximum profit. So according to this, when we worked out all the profits, it was point B that gave us the maximum profit. So we should try to sell 50 dogs and 60 rats. And that profit is $2,550. That is the maximum profit. All right, so here's the easier version of this question. The examiner will draw everything for you and shade out the common region. So I don't expect you to draw this, right? But we're just going to work it out together. You all can clearly see the common region shaded in red here. What they want us to do is work backwards. So let's start with this one. The black line, anybody wants to tell me the equation of this black line? Let's look at it on the screen here. Here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. What's the equation of the black line? Right, not just 60. Nikisha, it's not just 60. The equation must have a letter in it, right? Right. Well, if you listen to the question, right, the exact, I asked you for the equation of the black line. I didn't ask you to define the region as yet. So when I ask you for the equation of a line, this black line, right, I'm gonna get it here, is X is equal to 60, because it's what? A vertical line going through 60. So now the examiner wants you to state the inequality. So now that we have realized that the equation of the line is X is equal to 60, and it makes a big difference, because if he asks for the equation, that's the one with the equal sign. The inequality is the one with the less than or more than sign. So look at this line. Is the shading to the left or to the right of that particular line? Is it to the left or right? The shading is to the left. And we all know we associate left with less than. So the first equation is this. Well, inequality, sorry. X is less than or equal to 60. You're only going to get 1 mark for that. But we have 2 other lines. We have a purple line and a green line. It doesn't matter which one we go for first. Let's go with the green line. Do you all think you all can find the equation of the green line? Remember, I showed you all how to find the equation of a line about 3 weeks ago. That's the y equals the mx plus c thing. You need to get 2 points on the green line. So let me give you 2 points so that we all have the same thing. This point on the green line is 220, 70. Obviously, if you choose 2 different points on the green line, you're going to get the same answer. And this point here is what? 80, 40. Quickly find the equation of the green line. So we're going to find the equation of this green line. Let's see what we get. Let's see if 2 is the answer. So it's y2 minus y1. So we have y2 is 40. Y1 is 70. X2 minus x1. So it's 80 minus 20. On top of 40 minus 70 is minus 30. 80 minus 20 is 6. I'm not getting 2. Again, minus 30 divided by 60, that's minus 0.5. I'm getting negative 0.5. That is what I am getting for the gradient. So that means the equation of the green line is y is equal, we just found the gradient is minus 0.5x. And we could see that the y-intercept, it's slicing the y-axis at 80. So there's no need to waste time to calculate the y-intercept. We could just put what? 80. So we have the equation of the green line. Is the shading above the green line or below the green line? It's below the green line. So the equal sign, we're going to replace it with less than or equal to, because anytime we see below, we associate that with less than. So the second inequality is y is less than or equal to minus 0.5. You can put minus a half if you wish, plus 80. Do the same thing for the purple line now. You're going to do the same procedure. Choose 2 points on the purple line. Let me help you choose it. Let's choose this point as 10, 20. Look at it, 10, 20. Where's our next easy point? This point is very easy. He is 20, 40. So fine, and you all can see that the y-intercept here is 0. It's slicing the y-axis at 0. So once again, you could just calculate the gradient because you could use your eyes to figure out the y-intercept. Okay. So we have the gradient, which is, well, I can do everything here, y2 minus y1, 40 minus 20, x2 minus x1, so 20 minus 10, 40 minus 20 is 20, 20 minus 10. We're getting the gradient as 2. And the y-intercept is what? 0. Now, so the equation of this line is y is equal to 2x plus 0. Do we really need to put the 0? I mean, nothing mathematically wrong with it, but and we can leave that out since it's, you know, it's kind of useless to put plus 0. Because if you put plus nothing, then 0 is what? Understood. What are we going to replace the equal sign is? Look at the shading with respect to the purple line. Ask yourself, is that shading below the line or above the line? It's below, right? So I think we should replace that with y is less than or equal to 2x. I'm not even going to bother to put the plus 0. If you put the plus 0, you're still going to get it correct in the exam. Which questions do you all like? This one or the previous ones? Right? Some people said the previous ones, right? All right. Now, if you're not good at finding the equations of a line, like if you're having problems with it, well, then you'll prefer the previous one. I prefer these here. I prefer the one where the examiner draw everything for you already, and you just have to work backwards to find the equation. For me, but you get much less marks for this one in the examiner. The one where you have to draw the entire graph by yourself, you get about 8 or 9 marks for that. This question, you might just get about 4 marks. Probably less, sometimes just 3 marks you might get for this question. All right. Great. Important, right? If you want to do some extra work on linear programming, you go into the maths classroom, you look for linear programming, which is 14. Let's see what happens when we click on lesson 14. Let me just see. How much videos? It's video 71, 72, and 73. Take my advice. Watch back those 3 videos. It's totally different examples, different numbers. It will make a lot of good extra practice, right? Great. So the next topic that we are going to start is quadratics. How much of you all have started quadratics in school already? If not, quadratics is lesson 12. So for those who want a head start, right, for next week class, do me a favor, no? Start looking at the quadratics video, like how to solve a quadratic using the quadratic formula, right? It will make class go a lot faster, right? If everyone, obviously does the homework and we just fine tune everything else in class. But this is the next official topic that I want to do. And guys, I hope to see the majority of you all Monday coming. So on Monday, I could finish right angle triangle trigonometry with you all, right? Right. Well, linear programming was videos, this lesson 14, right? All right, guys. So since we're finished today with this, I know we're over in class a little bit early, right? But we finished what we had to do today. All right. Right. And there's no payment for December classes because we're only going to go up to the 8th. All right. So we're going up to the 8th of December and there's no payment for December. And we are opening back on the 8th of January. Take care, guys.